everybody, happy Valentine's Day and welcome back to Simple Truth. Today we're going to be studying Romans 12 verses 1 and 2. But before that, I wanted to share a verse with you guys that spoke to me this morning and I thought it was really good. So I just want to share it with you guys real quick. It's 1 John 3:16. By this we know love, because he laid down his life for us. We also ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. And it really spoke to me today because it's a good verse to be thinking about on Valentine's Day, because there's a lot of misconception about love. And I think this is a great example of love and what true love is. And I just think it's a good verse to be thinking about today and meditating on. So let's go to Romans 12. It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And the first thing that stuck out to me was beseech. And beseech means to beg or to ask eagerly. So it's not a mere suggestion or a simple, hey guys, do this. It's a begging. There's something urgent about it. And what is he begging? He's begging, the first thing, to present your bodies a living sacrifice. And what is a sacrifice? A sacrifice is a giving up of something of value for the sake of something else. So it's giving up your bodies. It's giving up yourselves. It's giving up your desires and your wants for the glory of God is what he's talking about here. He wants you to stop worrying about yourself and your needs and your wants, and to sacrifice it up and just be like, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do today? And just giving yourself humbly over to him. And the next thing it says, the next thing he's begging is holy. So to be set apart, not to be like the world, to be like Christ. So set apart. So first is a living sacrifice, and then holy, set apart. Acceptable to God. So through this, he's begging them, these three things: a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. And then he says, which is your reasonable service. So it's logical. It's reasonable. It's not asking something crazy. It's not asking you this, laying down your lives, giving your bodies up for a living sacrifice to God is not something crazy. It's a reasonable service. And then the next verse, verse 2, it says, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So that first part, it says, and do not be conformed to this world. We are being conformed to this world by watching things that aren't acceptable to God, that are doing things that aren't acceptable to God. We're being conformed to this world. And then it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And how are we supposed to be conformed by the renewing of our mind? Or what is this renewing? And renewing of your mind will come when you are totally focused on God and reading his word. You'll be renewed by his word. And that's setting yourself aside, setting your desires aside. Say you're watching TV, setting it aside and just focusing on his word and studying it and renewing your mind daily in his word. Paul says, I die daily in 1 Corinthians. And so it's a daily commitment to putting self aside, putting it away and focusing on God, focusing on the Bible. And so the last thing it says is that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So it's good and acceptable and perfect will. God's will is good, acceptable, and perfect. And to prove what it is, it says right here, be transformed by the renewing of your mind and do not be conformed to this world. And then we can prove what is good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. And for me, and getting out of high school and getting into college and just really thinking about, hey, what does God want me to do with my life? It's right here. If you're being transformed by the renewing of your mind, you can prove what is acceptable and perfect will of God. And so you want to know what you're supposed to do with your life. Be transformed. Don't be conformed to this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then God will show it to you. God will show you His will for your life. And so let's go back and just go through the list of things that it says in here. Present your bodies a living sacrifice. So setting your desires, your wants, setting them aside. Being holy and acceptable to God. Being set apart and acceptable to God. And then it says, do not be conformed to this world. And I say it again, it can be easy to be conformed to that. You could just be going along, being conformed to this world. If you put this book aside, if you put it aside and say, hey, I don't need that. I don't need to live by this. You're going to be conformed by the world. You're going to be conformed to the world. And so this book, you need to be soaking yourself in the Word and soaking yourself in this and renewing yourself in this. And so that's my prayer for me and for you guys, is that we continue to be transformed by this book and continue to lay aside ourselves. And when we do that, it'll be amazing. Just to be set apart from this world and just focusing on the Word. And so that's my challenge for this week, is to be focusing and transforming your mind through the Word and setting your desires off to the side and become a living sacrifice for God.